Okay, in this video, I want to talk about another way of bringing files into your Lightroom catalog, and this is probably one of the most useful. You can bring files into your Lightroom catalog directly from your SD card. Now, what's cool about this is that this is one of the superpowers of Lightroom. Lightroom is able to both move the library books. Let's say we're in the library metaphor again, and we get a bunch of new library books in shipment. We need to get them on the shelf, and we also need to put them into the catalog so people can find them on the shelf. Lightroom can do both of those things at the same time. Still, it's important to keep the idea of it separate. We're not putting photos into Lightroom, we're putting them on the shelves and telling Lightroom where they are. Okay, let's go ahead and get started by launching Lightroom. And I want to show you the best way to launch Lightroom. This is the best practices, and I think you'll get to appreciate it. Now, with most applications, we come over to the dock, wherever it is, we find the application we want, and we click on that. You can do that with Lightroom, but after you make your own catalog, I'd advise against it. It can get very, very confusing and messy because when you do that, you might launch it into a default catalog. It might launch into a catalog that got left on the computer. You may end up anywhere but in your own catalog, and you might not notice that until you've worked for quite a while. So in order to optimize things, you actually want to start launching Lightroom from your catalog. Now, here's Ideal Student. Remember that I told you to be very careful about where you put that catalog that you made to be sure that it ends up somewhere where you absolutely know where it is so you can locate it, and this is why. So we put that catalog, or I did, we put that catalog into a folder called Sparseness Photos. Lightroom made that for us. We put it on the hard drive in All My Photos. And there it is. Now, these folders, which Lightroom generates automatically, will contain a number of other files that are related to Lightroom. You don't need to worry about what they do, but you also don't want to delete them. But what you're looking for is this file. This is your catalog. You can recognize it by this dark blue Lightroom catalog icon, and it is a dot. I'll look down here, a little easier to read, .lrcat. Anytime you have a dot and then a series of letters after that or numbers, that's called an extension, and that indicates that we have a file. This is a file, not an application. The application lives on your computer, but you are accessing it through this file. So once you find that, if you double click it, it will actually launch Lightroom. And once Lightroom gets launched, you are in that catalog. This should look familiar. We populated this with a bunch of stuff, a bunch of photos in all of these different areas. So there's all my photos. Here's all the subfolders all filled up with photos. These are things that, remember, we imported from the drive. They were already living on the drive in these folders, and we added them so that Lightroom knows where they are. Now we're going to actually import from the SD card. And it's right down here. This is from my Nikon D7200, and it has some files on it that I want to bring into both bring into Lightroom and also copy onto my hard drive. So I'm doing two things at once. Really important to remember. Lightroom's super coordinated. We're going to go down to the import command again. And when we get here, notice, did you see that? It just quickly shifted from add to copy. It defaulted down into my card. It's showing up as another drive. Only if it's plugged in. If it's not there, you got to double check that it's plugged into your drive. We're not in the hard drive, we're actually in the SD card. And it's navigated inside of that folder, and it's looking at all the files on that folder. Now, as a rule, you want to bring everything that's on a card into Lightroom. Just bring it in, copy it. You can sort it out, delete, and do everything later. If you start cherry picking, which you can do, it's going to be really confusing. You're going to end up saying, oh, I don't know if I imported that, and I imported this one, and it has a little blur, and I can't remember if there's other ones that I took that might be better. Bring everything in, look through it. It's very, very quick and efficient. I'll show you some ways to just go through your files and get rid of the ones you don't like and reorganize them. But for now, we're going to bring them all in. And there's a lot of different ways that you can bring new files in, but I would recommend figuring out a strategy. Every time you bring new stuff in, either you have a file set up that you're going to bring them into for a specific purpose, or in this case, I'm going to recommend you might create a folder, and I'll show you how to do this. You can create a folder just for new photos so that you can bring them in and then sort them out. We'll do that in another video. So I'm going to unclick this just so you can see. Right now, before I created the subfolder, it actually just shows the folders that exist. Now, this is extremely important. Before, when we were on Add, this window wasn't there. This is called our destination window. And this is really important to notice. One of the most common mistakes, and it hasn't defaulted because I was in here before, so I'm going to show you what it would normally look like. Almost always, when you open this window, it's going to look something like this. So these might or might not be open. These are other areas that we're not going to worry about right now. We're just going to click those closed. In the destination window, automatically, if nothing else is chosen, it's going to default to the Macintosh hard drive. That's this computer, and it's going to put them into a folder called Pictures, which is actually a pretty hard folder to find, especially on the school hard drives. And it's not where you want your pictures to be. You don't want them on a computer in the lab because they might get deleted. They almost certainly will. And even if they don't get deleted, you may not be working on that computer. And if you are, you may have a very hard time locating those photos. So absolutely do not copy your photos onto the hard drive. You want to click this closed and find your drive. In this case, it's Ideal Student. And you want to navigate to whatever folder you want to put it on. You notice your card is also down here. You don't want to copy them back onto your card. That would be a bad idea. We're going to put them on the hard drive along with the catalog and everything else. I'm going to click into all my photos because that's the folder that we're using for this class. And I'm going to go up here. It's weird because you click here and then you go back, but this is the way it works. I'm going to click into subfolder. Now, I had already created this earlier, so it's defaulting, giving it a title of new photos. I just want to show you that I could call this import. I can name this whatever I want. We'll just go ahead and call it new photos. For some reason, it does not like there it goes. It's insisting that I have an underscore. Down here, it may have defaulted to by date. And notice then it actually organizes all these photos. It puts them into these subfolders that have dates on them. Can be useful I recommend for you not to do it by date, just to do it into one folder. It's going to be easier. You won't lose the dates on them, and it's just going to make your life simpler for now. So this is where it's going. It's going into subfolder new photos. Make sure of all of that before you hit the import button. Make sure you're on copy, not add. You notice you could also copy as DNG. If you accidentally do that, it's not a big deal, but for now we're just going to copy. I'll talk to you about that later. Click the import button, and you're going to see the progress bar up here. Sometimes it takes a minute. There we go. And then they're going to start to import. Depending on how much you have on there, it could take anywhere from a couple of minutes to maybe 20 minutes if you really have a slow connection or a slow computer and you have a lot of files. This should only take about 3 or 4 minutes. And you notice down here, they're all coming in to new photo. So it's putting it on this shelf. The shelf is called new photo. And it's also telling the computer, it's also telling Lightroom that they're there, so Lightroom can recognize them. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. And by the way, this is one of the most difficult things about all of these programs, although it also makes them versatile. There are a lot of different ways to do almost everything. So you could also just drag these over the way we did before, put them into a folder on your hard drive, and then import them from there. Just copy and move them first and then do it. But this way, you actually save a step. You come right in from your SD card. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let that load up. And in the next video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to organize these photos.